So that takes me to the next, really most absurd part of the defense in this case, which is that not only was this a prop gun, but Mr. Ephron knew it was a prop gun. They want you to believe Mr. Ephron knew that this gun was a prop gun. But at the same time, they also want you to believe, need you to believe, that he pulled the gun in order to intimidate Mr. Ephron with the gun that Mr. Ephron already knows is a prop gun. It is absolutely absurd. Let's start with the first premise that they want you to believe there, that the defendant is carrying a prop gun in the first place. The testimony through Lou, what the defense wants you to believe is the defendant, he's been stabbed. Not only was he stabbed in this nightclub, 12 he was stabbed at the same time. That's a violent thing to have happen to you. Not only that, but he has crazy people breaking into his house. Crazy people stalking him. Also breaking into his house. And when he's faced with that real violence, being stabbed with a real knife, having real people in his house that he doesn't know, what is his rational response to that? Let's carry a fake gun. Let's talk about Lou for a second. This ASAP Lou. ASAP Lou is a very valuable friend to have. ASAP Lou tells you that the defendant singled him out in a crowd because the defendant liked his energy. And little did the defendant know that he was basically recruiting the Swiss Army knife of best friends. Okay? ASAP Lou, not just your personal assistant, but turns into your tour manager. You need someone to be at your house while the police are searching it on a moment's notice. You got Lou. He's there. But, by the way, let's be clear, Lou, he's totally impartial. He's not financially reliant on the defendant. Because Lou also has his own DJing business and his own clothing brand, which apparently have nothing to do with his good friend, the famous musician, who is also an ambassador to multiple clothing designers. Lou must have done that all on his own. On top of that, Lou, I said he's the Swiss Army knife. One of his functions, he's also the defendant's security consultant. And Lou told you that he sat down with some unnamed, unidentified security expert that did not testify, whose name he couldn't tell you, could give you no information about. And after the real security issues that the defendant was having, being cut with a real knife, he decided the best way that he could protect himself, that Rocky could protect himself, is with a fake gun. So that the next time someone approaches him with a real knife, he can pull out his fake gun. That's going to go one of two ways. That assailant might say, "I didn't know you had a gun," and leave. Or they might attack you with their real knife or their real gun, and your fake gun is completely useless. You have no way of actually defending yourself. And if you're faced with real threats, clearly you want to have something that you can really defend yourself with, not some prop. That security advice, that is not just illogical, it's absurd. Okay? And the reason why it's absurd and makes no sense is because it's not real advice. That advice was not given to the defendant. Okay? Lou made that up for this case, for his testimony in this trial. It did not happen. But wait, because it gets even more absurd. All right? It's even more absurd because they're saying that Mr. Ephron knew. He knew that that gun was fake when the defendant pulled it on him. So any even remote possible deterrent effect that that fake gun would have on anyone goes completely out the window when we're talking about Mr. Ephron. Because Mr. Ephron knows it's fake. I mean, with the defense logic, the defendant could have popped a balloon and it would have had the exact same deterrent effect on Mr. Ephron as the fake gun. Did they prove to you? Did they prove to you at all that Mr. Ephron knew that gun was fake? Mr. Ephron denies it. He says, when I asked him about a prop gun, it took him back. What are you talking? Where does this prop gun come from? Okay? They told you he got that prop gun at a music video shoot in July of 2021. We know the shooting happens November of 2021. Between July and November, did they show you a single instance where the defendant and Mr. Ephron are together? A single instance where Mr. Ephron could have received that information that this was a fake gun? Does it even make sense that if the defendant's going to carry a fake gun for his security, that he's going to tell everyone around him, hey, it's a fake gun, it's a fake gun? How does that make any sense? It makes absolutely no sense because it's not true. The truth is the defendant did not have a fake gun. He had a real gun. How do we know? Well, the first scene where the defendant pulls the real gun on Mr. Ephron, what does he do? How does Mr. Ephron respond? How does Illz respond? You don't see the very moment that the gun is first pulled on Mr. Ephron. It's not captured on the video. They're just off camera. But what do you see when they come back into the frame? Mr. Ephron's backing up. Illz is between them. Ill's entire focus is on the defendant, the man with the gun. Where's Illz looking? Is he focused on Mr. Ephron, the provocateur, the one who's provoking this fight, who's trying to hurt his friend Rocky? No. He's got his back to Mr. Ephron. He's focused completely on the defendant. What's Mr. Ephron doing? Again, they want you to believe Mr. Ephron looked at the defendant and said, put that fake-ass gun away. He never said that. What's he doing on the video? He's backing up. There's no video of the second that gun is pulled on him from this scene. But there is that video from the second location. So I want to play that for you. And I'm going to slow it down for you. I will play it at 2 different speeds. You've seen this video over and over and over. You could probably, if you have any artistic skill, you could probably draw it out from memory. But I want to play it slowly. You know who the people are involved in this. What's the defendant doing? He's pulling the gun out, and you see Mr. Ephron dive behind Illz. That's how Mr. Ephron responds when the gun is pulled on him. Now this is really the moment. So I'm going to slow it down even more. We're going to go to 1/4 speed, okay? You can see the defendant already moving back towards Mr. Ephron. Mr. Ephron is nowhere near Illz. He's lunging towards Mr. Ephron, and Mr. Ephron is diving out of the way. Now this video, it creates a host of problems for the defense in this case. This is the moment where the defendant is turning around towards Mr. Ephron, where he's pulling that gun out, where he's pointing it at Mr. Ephron. And the gun comes out before Mr. Ephron is anywhere near Illz. That completely negates their defense. Negates the reason why he says he had to pull the gun in the first place, to protect Illz. Negates 12B's testimony that Mr. Ephron was punching Illz. Creates a lot of problems for them. You can see the space for yourself between Mr. Ephron and Illz. You don't need anyone to tell you that Mr. Ephron is not attacking Illz. I guess the best that they could argue is that Mr. Ephron was going to attack Illz. For that to be true, there would have to be a time machine involved. But the instructions, the jury instructions on that are clear. No, you cannot have a belief that there's going to be future harm. Doesn't matter how imminent it was. Doesn't matter if Mr. Ephron was actually saying, I'm going to beat Illz up. I'm coming after you, Illz. Doesn't work. Belief in future harm is not sufficient. I want to go back to this. You can see the moment where the defendant turns with the gun in his hand, where Mr. Ephron is, and where Illz is. The second problem that so other than negating the defense, right, that 12B wants you to believe Mr. Ephron is beating up Illz, that video further causes problems for the defense because nobody on that video is acting like that's a fake gun. They're all reacting to a real gun. Consider it from each of their perspectives. From the defendant's perspective, Mr. Mayers. If he's holding a prop gun and Mr. Ephron knows it's a prop gun, that's what they're telling him, right? Why does he have to run towards Mr. Ephron? Why does he have to move at all? Why does he have to lunge towards him? When Mr. Ephron runs around Illz, why does he have to try to duck and dodge side by side to try to get a line of sight around Illz? If nothing comes out of the barrel, the tip of that gun, because it's a prop gun, not a real gun, there's no need to chase Mr. Ephron. There's no need for him to move, period. The gun would make the sound. They're telling you that's what the deterrent is. So why does he move? He moves because it's a real gun. Because things do come out of the end of that. And he's trying to get a line of sight on Mr. Ephron. Consider it from Mr. Ephron's perspective. They want you to believe at the first scene, Mr. Ephron looked coolly at the defendant when he pulled that gun out and said, put that fake-ass gun away. So when he pulls it out a second time, a few minutes later, does Mr. Ephron look back at him and say, do I have to tell you again? Put that fake-ass gun away again. No. Clearly that's not what he's doing. What he's doing is reacting to, oh my God, someone just pulled a real gun off. And he's jumping around Illz, trying to put something in between him and the defendant. They're very close. He believes that's a real gun. He knows. His reactions are, that's a real gun. 12B. Let's talk about 12B's perspective. He says, when he testifies, I knew that was a fake gun. That's, going back, I already knew that before the defendant pulled it out. But what does he do on the video? What does the video show? He's behind a wall. So he's the guy to come in here and tell you, we all knew it was a fake gun. When you see him, when you see his reaction, where is he? He's on the other side of the street. He's hiding. Why does he have to hide if nothing comes out of that gun? He's hiding because he knows, what we all know, it's a real gun.